mentioned, joining me in studio right now is the president of the Law Society of Kenya, Isaac Okero, to just help us understand what really happened yesterday as the Supreme Court went on for hours late into the night. Thank you very much for coming into studio.
You're very welcome, Akisa.
And I will definitely start by saying that the Law Society of Kenya had asked to arbitrate this matter out of court. What is your feeling right now? Did you foresee this? Is this an I told you so moment for the LSK?
Well, I wouldn't want to frame it in those terms, but this is precisely why the Law Society of Kenya offered a mediation process, because we wanted to try and see if there's a means by which this dispute could be settled outside the legal framework to prevent the spectacle that we saw yesterday. It didn't work, and so the matter went on to hearing. As Kenyans now know, the ruling was delivered yesterday. I was in court for the whole time, and you're quite right, it went on for a long time because each of the judges read their separate rulings. The jurisprudential reverberations will continue to be felt for years to come. You know, this is the thing about decisions by the Supreme Court. It is the apex court. So every decision that it makes is binding on all the courts that fall below it. This decision is going to be analyzed by scholars, by lawyers and practitioners, and by academicians in Kenya, and I'm sure outside.
All right.
For many years to come.
What does this ruling really mean?
Well, essentially, by a majority decision, 3 judges disqualified themselves. They also lifted the conservatory orders that the applicants had enjoyed, which meant now that it is quite possible that the Judicial Service Commission will declare their positions vacant and the recruitment process will begin. Of course, when the Chief Justice leaves office after the 16th of June, which is tomorrow.
Just tomorrow.
Yes. Then there will be 3 vacancies, and the Judicial Service Commission no doubt will begin the process of recruitment to reconstitute the court to its maximum number so that there will be quorum. But as it stands, with the vacancies that have been created, the court is unable to sit and to function. And this, of course, is very important for Kenyans because we appreciate that this is the court that has the jurisdiction to decide on any disputes that may arise out of a presidential election, and we're going into an election next year.
Yeah.
The Judicial Service Commission had indicated that the process of recruitment will take until about October before Kenyans are likely to see a new Chief Justice. Considering that there are 2 additional vacancies, I would speculate that perhaps the end of the year or early next year before we can see the court fully constituted.
With the amount of time frame you have mentioned, probably early next year, and it would be a few months as we head into a general election. Where do we go from here, from the ruling that was made yesterday, between now and the general election? Is it sufficient time to reconstitute the whole bench of the Supreme Court? And what kind of legacy is this particular Supreme Court that is just about to, half of it is out now, what legacy is it leaving behind?
Well, those are some of the questions that Kenyans will be pondering over, but you know, it's not a reconstitution of the entire bench. It is a filling in of the vacancies that will have arisen. But this decision, as I've mentioned, it's going to cause a great deal of examination and analysis of the jurisprudence that has been generated. We have seen yesterday 3 of the judges disqualifying themselves. 2 of them disclosed the nature of the conflict that they felt generated reasonable apprehension of bias. But the question is left then that the nature of the conflict that they had apprehended themselves did not come about on account of the applications that were made for their disqualification. They appear to have been facts that were known to them before. So why did the recusal not come at the beginning and save us the entire proceedings unfolding in the way that they did? But Kenyans obviously are very concerned that the highest apex court is in the state that it's in, with not much time left before the election.
Yes.
It will have to be sufficient time. I know that the Judicial Service Commission will get straight to work.
So it will have to work.
It has to work. We don't have a choice.
All right. Yesterday, something very interesting came out as Justice Mohammed Ibrahim was disqualifying himself. He suggested an increase of the number of judges at the Supreme Court to about 9 or 11. Will the LSK vouch for this? And what would be the process to change the law into that number?
Now, that's the one aspect of the decision that I think is going to cause a lot of us to look very closely at that suggestion. And the LSK in particular is going to be looking at it very closely because it makes absolute sense. Having a Supreme Court with a maximum number of 7 judges and a quorum of just 2 less of the maximum, it means then that, it's a very tight fit. For any reason, any of the judges being unavailable or in conflict, then there's a danger that the court will lack quorum. So that is something that we certainly will want to look at.
It is something that LSK would consider?
Absolutely.
Finally, just quickly, I understand we don't have much time, but we also expect another ruling tomorrow. Could you just break it down for us? What should we expect tomorrow at the Supreme Court?
Well, at the conclusion of the decisions being rendered yesterday, Senior Counsel Firoz Naroji made an application for a stay of that decision. There was no stay in the interim granted, which means there can be anything happening now. But what will happen tomorrow will be a decision by the Supreme Court as to whether to grant the stay, which will effectively keep the 2 applicants in office. And that is something we'll have to wait and see.
All right. Thank you very much, Isaac, for coming in and help us understand that quite a confusing scenario we are in as a country, especially with the highest court in the land being in a crisis. That was Isaac Okero, who is the president of the Law Society of Kenya, joining us here on News Desk just to help us understand the intrigues that unfolded yesterday at the Supreme Court.